what's up everyone? I am Lucy. I am joined by Tina.
Hello.
JR.
Hi there.
And Tom.
Hi.
We are talking about IGN's Game of the Year 2019. Specifically in this video, we are talking Craft Awards. That means all of the cool behind the scenes stuff that made the games that we loved this year so great. So we are going to try and keep this concise, even though I know we are bursting with feelings about all of this stuff.
A lot of feelings.
Let us go through the list. We are going to start with Best Art Direction. This year, it went to Control, which was also our Game of the Year.
A great choice. I mean, even just looking at, like, obviously there's character design, which they're pretty straightforward in this sense, except for the hiss enemies, where even like the explodey dudes are actually just human beings bent over. Like, it's just so unique. But all the way from that to a lot of the architecture to the level designs, like, it's just some of the levels, especially towards the end of the game, were insanely impressive.
Yeah, I think the level design is really what I think stands out in terms of art direction. Like, but also like the level design of like not in. I'm trying to do this without getting super spoilery in case people haven't played it yet. But you
Play
totally
Control,
should
it's
play
really
Control for God's sake, please. But like when you go into places that aren't inside the Bureau of Control or that are like still not back to normal. There's some of the coolest looking designs we've seen in a long time, and the way that transforms back into normalcy is also one of my favorite things that I've seen all year. It's really great.
Control is also a really good example of why we did art direction rather than just saying something like graphics.
Yeah.
Because you can look at a game like Death Stranding, and Death Stranding is a gorgeous graphically game, but Control, has, like you said, the character design, the use of color, the way spaces are done. It's more than just how pretty it is. It's kind of all of these things taken together.
Our second Craft Award is Best Music/Score, which went to Sayonara Wild Hearts.
So happy about this.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It is the kind of game that I want to show people who don't play games. I'm just like, look how gorgeous this is. Look how gorgeous this sounds.
Yeah, and for me it was also how the sound and the songs combined, because this was a game that was explicitly kind of marketed as a experimental pop album video game, right? So the music better be good. And there was a lot of amazing music this year in games, but yeah, it wasn't just the songs, it was how the songs mixed with both the story, as weird and esoteric as it was, and then also the motions you were going through, to the point where I played through Sayonara Wild Hearts 3 times, and then I started listening to the soundtrack on Spotify, and when I was listening to those songs, I could feel every beat. I knew exactly what I was doing in the game for every moment of every song, and that sort of, the way those two things were so intertwined elevated both elements, I think.
Best Sound Design, which is of course very different from soundtrack, went to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and like, honestly, I don't think it could have gone to a more worthy candidate. This was one of the reasons, its sound design was one of the reasons why I felt like I was in the Star Wars universe when I was playing that game.
Yeah, it's another fitting one because it's just such an iconic environment and universe, and especially with the sounds. Like, blasters and Star Wars are just, hand in hand, like peanut butter and jelly.
But it's risky though. It's risky to take on an IP where especially the audio is so well known and so ingrained into so many people's psyche. Like,
your expectations are through the roof.
if someone like passed me in the street, like, hey, what does a blaster sound like? I know that in my brain, and they nailed it so well. And it's
And like the plasma energy like ricocheting.
Yeah.
You know that sound.
But it's beyond that too. It's like, when like the way that the lightsaber like thrums when it clicks on, and then like the slight variation when like somebody lights up a double-bladed one is a little bit different than the first. It's really
so much
excellent.
nuance.
Best story. Now, this was a interesting year. It wasn't a super story-heavy year for video games. But the ones that that really stood out were fantastic, and again, hotly contested. Our winner was Control.
I think that comes down, for me at least, that comes down to the world that they built. We already talked about it visually, but also just the little details. They made a world that felt, and this is kind of a cliche at this point, but lived in, to the point where it felt like you were only seeing a slice of it and that everything else existed already, right? Yeah. The way that they tied it into all of these previous altered world events that had happened that you could find, and sort of the confidence they had to not just explain it all to you and to let you figure out a lot of the stuff. I think the way they used blacking out in all those little files was really clever. And then how that ties into Jessie's story and Jessie kind of figuring herself out and figuring out what she wanted from this place. And similarly, how they didn't tell you what she wanted right away. It just did a really good job of weaving that all into the length of the game.
All right, and our final craft category was Best Performance. And this year's winner was Ashley Birch for The Outer Worlds.
Oh, Parvati.
Yeah, Parvati's just a great character. This was the thing that stood out to me, because The Outer Worlds is full of great performances, great writing, great stories within it as well. Parvati is the only NPC character who just changed my mind by talking to me about something. And I won't spoil this either, but kind of close to the beginning of the game, you have to make sort of your first pivotal choice within the Outer Worlds. I'm going to talk vaguely here, don't worry. And Parvati comes to you right before you make the choice and gives you her pitch about what she thinks you should do. And I was fully ready to do the thing she didn't want me to do. Like, had completely committed.
No, I'm right there with
and
you.
then she gave me this, it was just so genuine, it was so well performed, it was so just real that it changed my mind. And that's the first time I've ever had that happen in a game, where just an NPC talking to me and being a human being made me alter a game decision that I kind of had min-maxed in my brain, and then I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Well, it's interesting too, because like that moment I remember, and she's like not even super definitive about it. She's like,
No.
I don't know, it's not really my place to say, but she's kind of unsure about like her own position, but it's in the stuttering and in the like uncertainty of her tone of voice that does kind of sell you on how her genuine she is.
Yeah, well, that's the key. It's like, Ashley Birch just plays her in such, like, there's just so much earnestness just like flowing out of Parvati through the entire game, but especially in that moment, which is just so great, because it's not this whole like, I'll never trust you again if you do this.
Yeah.
It's just like, no,
Not
like,
this like video
ultimatum.
gamey, yeah.
right, it's not a
exactly.
binary choice for that
Yeah.
character or your relationship with them. It's just like,
There's
hey,
this other
maybe,
perspective.
maybe think about this for a second.
And I did.
And you did.
Team, thank you so much for joining me to talk about our craft awards for IGN's 2019 Best Of. For everything else Best Of 2019, you are in the right place.